Okay, so this Science of Sport video focuses in on the BTEC Sport and Exercise Sciences Unit 2 Functional Anatomy specification, and in particular we're looking at the skeletal system and the Learning Aim D2, the process of bone growth and regeneration. This is part 2 and focuses on the regeneration element and bone health, all the vitamins and minerals that are key to bone health. So the spec requires you to understand how minerals are so essential in keeping bones strong. The two main minerals that you would need to have an appreciation for are calcium and phosphorus. So calcium is the most prevalent mineral in the body, and the bones actually function to store calcium for our body. We use calcium in lots of other functions. I know it's associated with bone strength and bone health and bone production, but the bones are actually the place where calcium is stored in the body. 2/3 of the bone's weight is the bony matrix, the calcium phosphate of the bone. We need to acquire lots of calcium because the body doesn't itself produce it. So this has implications for our nutrition and our diet. And again, hopefully you know that calcium can be gained from a lot of different dairy products, from nuts and from beans and the pulses. Okay, so calcium is an important component of our diet, and it's essential particularly for bone health. Again, already you should know that it's part of the process of hardening bone tissue. Calcium salts combine with calcium binding proteins to harden bone tissue, to make bone tissue. That process is called calcification. So this calcium is essential in hardening bone or creating bone tissue. The levels of calcium in our blood might fluctuate. We might need to take more from the bones if we need more circulating in our blood. If the amount in our blood drops, we might need to deposit it into our bones. Okay, so it's an ongoing balance between depositing it and removing it from the bone or into the blood. That said, if there's an imbalance, if we lack calcium in our bones, then our bones become brittle. So if you've got a very poor diet, if you're inactive and very, low calcium intake, then that might contribute to your bones becoming weaker and more vulnerable to breaking and osteoporosis. So it's really important to avoid osteoporosis by having good calcium intake. Not only obviously is calcium important for making bone tissue, for hardening bone tissue, but it's important for nerve transmission, so sending messages down our nerves, and also for muscle contraction, the actual biological microscopic level of how we make our muscles contract. Phosphorus then is the second most important or prevalent mineral in the body, and again, we don't naturally have it. We need to eat it, take it in, a bit like calcium. So our diet is really key to having enough phosphorus, and again, it's found in dairy products. So actually, for minerals, if in doubt, they're found in dairy products, but phosphorus is also found in meat and in chicken. Phosphorus is key to energy production, maintaining cell structure, and for bone strength again, and teeth health. So both calcium and phosphorus are important for making strong bones, and we need to have a really good diet to take in enough calcium and phosphorus to maintain that. Moving on then to vitamins. So not only do we need minerals, we need a good vitamin intake. And there's 3 here named. And I was just trying to think of ways in which to remember what these vitamins do in terms of bone health. And, my suggestions are purely suggestions. You could do with thinking of some strategies for yourself. Vitamin A then is important in stimulating osteoblast activity. So I've put in red the A of osteoblast, so vitamin A, osteoblast, could be a very sort of crude, basic way of connecting the two. So we need vitamin A to enhance our osteoblast activity. Vitamin C is important for the synthesis or the making of collagen. So C, collagen, again, another way of perhaps connecting the two. Vitamin D is really important for building bone, and I've put there bone density. So having strong, dense bones is we've got a lot of bone being laid down by osteoblasts. So again, possibly you could connect vitamin D with strong bones or dense bones. And we need vitamin D also to help us absorb calcium from our food, so to take the calcium from our food. So it's not just important for bones itself, it's important for other mineral function. We make vitamin D naturally in the body, so we can get it by it's healthy for us to expose ourselves to sunlight for this purpose, but also we can take it in our diet, again, oily fish, liver and eggs. I mentioned collagen there already, and collagen is really key in bone health. So if you collagen actually originates from the Greek language kolla and gen. Kolla means glue, gen means producing. So it's almost like a strengthening, gluing function. It holds bone tissue together. It's very strong. It's a fibrous element. And collagen, when we lack collagen in our skin, for example, our skin becomes a bit more saggy as we age. So this is very much a glue strengthening function. Collagen can be found naturally in meats, eggs, fish, seafood, beans and dairy. Dairy is quite a consistent, important nutritional component. Next, we look at different hormones that might be key to bone growth. And there's 3 that are named here. Human growth hormone. So this is released, these hormones are released from our pituitary glands in our endocrine system. That's our hormone system. And its function is to stimulate cell growth. So we grow by stimulating new cells. So by stimulating cell growth and osteoblast activity, human growth hormone is important for us. Similarly, thyroxine, luckily it's logically released from the thyroid gland, and again it increases osteoblast activity. So all of these really are about osteoblasts doing their job. So if in doubt, learn the 3 names of these hormones, and the job they do is to cause osteoblasts to make bone cells. And of course, with estrogen for females and androgens for males, the sex hormones, this occurs quickly. So you may be familiar with yourselves having growth spurts during your developmental stages. That's because these hormones are rife in those stages and you will grow faster. As we age, these are reduced, these hormone levels are reduced in our bodies, and therefore we grow less. Unfortunately, as we age, there is an imbalance, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So actually, if you can learn these 3 hormones, pretty much for all 3 of them, it's about osteoblasts enabling us to build new bone cell and strengthen our bones, possibly it happening faster. So once we've become a sort of fully formed skeleton and the epiphyseal plates have fused and formed, rather than growing longer or taller, what our skeletal system does is it remodels. It constantly is removing, clearing out old bone cells and laying down new bone cells. And remember, our skeleton is alive. We associate it often with skeletons, dead bodies, but our skeletons are alive. They have blood source. They are actively changing constantly. So remodeling involves the ongoing replacement of old bone tissue with new bone tissue. Remodel, remodel, remodel. As I've said already, we need to know about these different cells. So we've got osteoclasts that clear old bone tissue. So the osteoblasts go in, clear out and reabsorb or resorb the old bone tissue. Osteoblasts then do their job building new, laying down new calcium and collagen. So making new bone tissue and new bone cells. And as we age, or as these develop, the osteoblasts convert into osteocytes, which are mature bone cells, and they lay down this bony matrix which keeps our bones really strong. And this cycle is ongoing. As an adult, we do this, we do this, we do this. There's another diagrammatic form, really just to show that it's an ongoing cycle. So bone is reabsorbed by osteoclast clearing it out and reformed or rebuilt by osteoblast laying down new bone cell. What we also need to appreciate is that this bone remodeling can be enhanced by exercise. Because it's a dynamic process, it's changeable, we can influence it. If we can apply what we call a mechanical stress, we can exaggerate this laying down of new bone cell. And stress often we associate with a negative thing, but in this context it's really, really important. So if we put stresses on our bones, we go jogging, we walk, we do activity, anything weight bearing. So swimming, for example, is not weight bearing. We float. Walking, jogging, aerobics, strength training is applying stresses through our bones. That's actually really good for us, because when our bones are under stress, they are stimulated to remodel. So the osteocytes are stimulated by stress to lay down new bone cells, therefore making our bones stronger and more dense and avoiding the risk of osteoporosis. So osteoporosis, you may be familiar with, is a bone condition. It's a medical condition which involves our bones becoming less dense and therefore weaker. And if you have osteoporosis, you're much more at risk of fractures and breaking your bones, even from a knock. Unfortunately, as we age, because we tend to have less of our sex hormones, so estrogen and androgens, the level of osteoblasts drops and we have this mismatch. So as we are an adult, a healthy younger adult, let's say, we've got a good balance. We've got osteoblasts that build cells, we've got osteoclasts that clear cells, and it's in balance, this cycle. As we age, unfortunately, we have mismatch. We have less osteoblasts. Therefore, we're clearing away more bone cells and not building or laying down enough new bone cells. Hence, our bone might go from strong, dense bone tissue to weaker, less dense, more fragile bone tissue. Okay, so an issue with aging or with poor diet is the risk of osteoporosis and the chances that we have less dense, weaker bones. Just pause the video, have a little look at this. This is just a slide that gives a summary of some of the factors that relate to osteoporosis, why you might get it, and what you can do about it.